Hi everyone, my name is John Collin. I've started this YouTube channel as a bit of an online diary for myself, really. If I get viewers, that's great, but really it's more to keep myself accountable for three different topics. One of which is I'm a competitive air pistol shooter, so if you've seen Yusuf Dikeç, the Turkish hitman that became famous during the Paris Olympics, that's the event that I do. No, I've not met him. But I have met other Olympic shooters, and I'm keeping this as a bit of an online diary for myself, just to keep myself accountable as I practice. I am hoping someday to get into the Olympics. Almost 51 years old. I turn 51 next month. So, great thing about air pistol shooting, sports shooting in general, is that you're really not too old to hit the highest levels. Dikeç was 50 years old himself, or 51. I'd have to look that up. When he won a silver medal at the Paris Olympics. So if he can still do it, so can I. As a matter of fact, there was another shooter from Portugal who made the finals in the European Championships this past spring who's 60. So you really can do this at any age. There are teenagers that make World Cup finals, and there are people in their 50s and so on that make it. So it's a lofty goal. I do know that. I'm not naive about it. I do know what it takes to get there. But it's a worthy goal to try. I do encourage people, set goals for yourself that are very difficult. Because if you don't make them, you'll still learn a lot about yourself along the way. I've made so many great friends, people from multiple countries, from beginner shooters all the way up to Olympic athletes, and I wouldn't trade that for anything right now. The second big reason that I wanted to create this is also weight loss. You know, one thing about shooting as a sport is that you don't have to look like a decathlete, but it does help to be relatively fit for a few reasons. One, I'll say I don't want to be quite so top heavy. But also cardio fitness is actually important, because when you get in a match, you get nervous and your heart just goes thump, thump, thump. I remember the first finals I ever made that I went fairly far in. I did win a gold medal, but I looked down at my shirt about halfway through the finals and I could literally see my heart beat through my shirt. I was that nervous. So cardio fitness can play a role in that, because as you're standing there, you got to stand real still. And if your heart is going crazy on you, then you're not going to be able to hold very still. I do know that it's my own fault that I've gotten where I am with it. My current weight as I'm starting this is 324. I'm about 6 feet tall. So at 324, yeah, that's definitely carrying too much. And I'm not going to get back into, what the BMI chart says. I could do a whole video about why you should never use the BMI chart for individuals. Because I was an athlete in college. I threw discus, University of Southern California. So, I do have a lot of muscle underneath the blubber. So my goal weight is what my college playing weight was, which was 223. That's my goal. If I were to make that, I'd still be overweight or obese according to the BMI charts, but it'd be a very healthy weight for me. I ran half marathons and one full marathon when I was about 240. So that's a good goal weight for me, and I'm gonna do what I can to make it. And one of the reasons I wanted to create this channel is so I can hold myself accountable, so I can record myself here and say, hey, this is what I've done toward that goal. And of course, the holidays are coming up, so that always makes a challenge. But and I do intend to enjoy the holidays. I'm not going to completely, cut myself off there. But you can still be responsible, because Christmas Day you can have eggnog, have desserts, have alcohol, whatever. As long as the day after Christmas you're back to your old routine. And so I will be. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not an expert in that, but I will be talking about diet on this channel, talking about the things that I do. Maybe I'll include recipes. Maybe I'll film myself in my kitchen at some point doing recipes for you that are healthy recipes. And hopefully some people can relate to some of the struggles that I've had. Certainly, one of the major causes for my overeating has been depression. I've had depression my entire adult life, and I've told my therapist food is my drug of choice. And I turned to fast food, I turned to ice cream and so on, cakes, whatever. And I'm learning better ways of coping with that and really being able to set good nutrition goals for myself and being able to stick with that. One thing that I do is I have a friend, one of my best friends lives in California, and she and I have goals for ourselves. We set goals over 2 weeks where you have to do certain things over 2 weeks. And one of my goals for myself is nutrition based. I limit myself to 2,200 calories a day. And I record that on MyFitnessPal. I use that app. And that's my goal is I cut myself off at 2,200. And I have to do that every day. And I do allow myself the occasional cheat day. For instance, if I'm driving to a match, I live north of Chicago, and the one match that I go to about 8 times a year is in Ohio. It's about a 6-hour drive, and I allow myself to have fast food during the drive at the service plazas. I'm not so strict with myself that I feel the need to, be that strict. And also the hotel that I stay at has a breakfast buffet that I indulge in. They have a waffle maker there, and I make myself a nice waffle. So I do allow myself that. I don't want to ever give the impression that I'm being ridiculously strict, because I don't feel that's necessary. Even though I have lofty goals, life is still meant to be lived. It's just, you can't be doing that every day. And then the third part of this channel that I want to talk about is related to the first two, and I already mentioned having depression. It's the mental health struggles that go along with both weight loss. I know a lot of people who really have difficulty with weight loss have mental health issues that stand in the way. I do want to talk about that on this channel. I think it's important that mental health is something that can be open and freely discussed. People shouldn't have to be ashamed of having mental health issues. They shouldn't be ashamed of the effect that those issues have on them. I don't ever want to use those as an excuse for anything. I don't think mental health should ever be, except in extreme cases, an excuse for anyone's behavior. And by extreme cases, I mean people whose mental health are such that they cannot separate fantasy from reality. And people like that, that's a whole different subject that I'm not going to get into here. Mostly I'm going to talk about things like depression, anxiety, self-image, and so on. Because on the weight loss side, as many people can relate to, it can be very difficult, as it's almost a feedback loop. Your mental health issues can make it more difficult for you to achieve your weight loss goals. And conversely, having difficulty with your weight loss goals can feed back into the depression too. So I do want to talk about that in this channel. Some things that I do, ways that I try to overcome, and things that I plan to do in the future to overcome that. And of course, mental health can also factor into the competitive shooting aspect. For those who saw, I think it was about 2 years ago, that Michael Phelps had a documentary on HBO that talked about mental health among elite athletes. And a lot of those athletes, the ones that he profiled in his documentary, they were very young athletes. Some, unfortunately, did end their lives. It's very sad with that, and I think a lot of that is dealing with day-to-day pressure, and that's all you've ever known. Even athletes who succeed at the highest levels, who win an Olympic gold medal, who win a world championships, in sports like that, as you age out of it, a lot of those sports, by the time you're 30, you're basically done competing. A lot of them have difficulty really finding their identity after competing at a high level for so long. And I'm fortunate in that regard, in that, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm going to be 51 years old next month. And as a result, I've been able to forge a fairly strong sense of identity for myself that has nothing to do with my prowess shooting an air pistol. So in that sense, I'm quite fortunate that I won't have to deal with that aspect of it. But there's still the mental aspect of, one, how do you control your mental focus while you're competing? Air pistol is not entirely unique, but almost unique in the sense that the mental focus is something that can really impact your performance, in the sense of any distraction can, even your own thoughts as a distraction, can really impede your performance. And I understand that other sports are like that too, but the difference with shooting sports and archery is much the same way, is that you have to maintain a complete stillness. And I've played football, I've done track and field, like I said, I threw discus in college, I've played baseball, and the mental aspect of that is to pump yourself up. You want to really there's almost a certain amount of, you see it with athletes on TV, that there's almost a certain arrogance, a swagger that has to come with the territory to get yourself pumped up to be able to perform at the highest levels. And in shooting, it's actually the opposite. The more you pump yourself up, the more you're going to have unwanted movement while you're trying to hold the pistol. And that's exactly the opposite of what you want. So I'm not saying that mental health is unimportant in other sports, or mental focus is unimportant, but it's definitely very different. It manifests itself in a different way, in that you need a certain level of calmness. And I do want to try and talk about that on this channel, where how do I achieve that kind of calmness? How do I, clear out thoughts from my head? One thing I say about matches is the two worst things that can happen to you during a match is either you're doing very poorly or you're doing very well. Because I've had it happen where I'm shooting well above my usual standard, and I basically end up doing terrible at the end of the match because I'm so focused on, ooh, this is a good score, I could get a personal best, and then I completely flounder the last target. So that does happen. It's how to quiet that out of your mind. How do you really live in the moment? I do meditation. I do breathing exercises, and I'll talk about that too. So if you are a competitive shooter yourself, I do ISSF, so that's the type that they shoot in the Olympics. I know there's practical shooting, which is more run and gun. I'm not sure how much of this would relate to you there, but if you're just interested in shooting, if you're a fan, I can leave a link to the ISSF's, their YouTube channel, so you can watch ISSF events. It can be a lot of fun watching some of the top shooters, including Yusuf Dikec. And I can talk about the type of equipment that's used. I'm sure I'll have some videos where I talk about the pistol, how do you buy a pistol, how do you get things custom fit. I can even talk about those high-tech glasses that they talk about, because I do own a pair. I do shoot using shooting glasses. I can do a whole video as to what those are about, why people use them, and why they're important to me. I wouldn't be able to really shoot very well without them for various reasons, and I'll go into that some other time. I'm actually sitting, this is right here is the pellet trap that I have. It actually can handle a .22 caliber bullet, so I hang paper targets from here. And I also have over there, I'll show that in another video, it's a little off camera, an electronic scoring system, which is made in Switzerland, and that's the same kind that they use in the Olympics. So I can talk about the technical aspect of it. If you're on a weight loss journey yourself, I can talk about how I get through that, the things that I do for weight loss, and we can talk about that. And if you're struggling with mental health, hopefully I can be somewhat relatable there too. So thank you for watching this, if you made it all the way. I don't know how many videos I'll be making. Like I said, I'm really making this for myself. If you wish to subscribe, you're more than welcome to do so. I'm just not going to make any promises. All right, have a great day, everyone.